Hi everybody, welcome to Leon's Chainsaw Parts and Repair. We are going to take a look at a very old but very well preserved Homelite EZ. There's a lot of confusion out there at times of super easy, easy automatic, easy, and hell, if you really want to confuse it, go back to the 50s to the original EZ and EZ6, which were, of course, much bigger saws. But we're talking about the smaller, super easy style. But they began their life. I'm going to try to avoid putting styrofoam into my hot coffee. That would taste like crap. As these saws, and the EZ and the Terry version, Homelite Terry version that was sold in Canada and overseas was the XL Mini. Well, these are a much smaller saw than what, if you've only been around a Super EZ, dimensionally they're the same. The engine is much smaller though. I'm going to probably screw this up, but I think the EZ, like this one here, is only a 35cc saw. Because the Super EZ is 41, and the EZ Automatic, I believe, is 38. So this is, engine-wise, barely any bigger than a Super 2. So, even though they'll fit, don't go putting a 24-inch bar on one of these. It might pull it, but not for long. But anyway, this is Dave's EZ. This is a UT of 10100, so this is the original model. This is probably from 1969, if I'm remembering the dates correctly. And he found this in the garage. He and his son were going through some stuff, and he said he had bought it at a sale probably 20 years ago and just hadn't been able to hadn't done anything with it. And he wants to get it going and give it to his son one of these days. Pretty cool. As usual, when he inquired around his area about getting it worked on, nobody wanted to. Too old, can't get parts, blah 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 blah. We all know where that's going to go. So, anyway, the saw is now here. He said you can prime it and it'll bark, but it won't pull fuel on its own. And judging by how stiff that fuel hose is, I don't doubt that a bit. So, probably going to need a carburetor kit, but it's not a guarantee. It may not. If it wasn't left with old gas in it, might be okay. This has had fuel in it from the attempt to start. I guarantee the duct bill down below the tube here is shot, so we'll replace it. Same thing on the oil side. That's just almost a standard. Yeah, they're both. The fuel one I think is entirely missing. This oil one you can see is pretty crummy. So let's do some work. Since Dave's already done some diagnosis for me, I kind of know where I'm going. We know it has spark, based on what he told us. I also can see that it's going to want a new sprocket. His teeth are pretty worn over there, but we'll focus on just getting it running first. Ah, come on. Air filter mount is good and tight. Man, this is clean. I don't know how many hours are on it, but it isn't that many. It isn't that many at all. So some of the differences between the three models that were out there, the EZ, this one, is a manual oiler only saw. And they upgraded the engine size to the EZ Automatic a few cc's to account for the automatic oil pump, much the same they did with the XL12 and the Super XL when it went to an automatic oiler. And then the Super Easy is just the, I guess they bored out the cylinder to the maximum size that they felt they could get to. And of course that's the one that we all know the best. But it all started with these guys. Alright, we're going to get the starter cover off because the Easy fuel hose runs all the way around. And this is old enough, there's probably a steel pipe in here. This is probably a two-piece hose. Did I get them all? Booyah. I'll be damned. That tells me it's been replaced before. Maybe not, but probably. And that hose is rock hard. So that was probably aftermarket hose. And some of it holds up well. I mean, even this Tygon that I use is going to get hard if it's exposed to ethanol for too long. That's just this E10, E15, whatever the hell it is we're buying nowadays, depending on what states we're in. It's terrible for small engines. That is really all I can say about it. And I am not. I'm actually far closer to, in a lot of ways, an environmentalist than most people who'd be working on an old saw like this. But any fuel that requires you to burn 20 to 30% more in order to achieve the same power, is it really better for the environment? Maybe it is. I haven't studied it, but the ethanol thing, I really have always questioned that. Sure, it's a great way for ensuring that corn farmers have a place to sell the crop. But if that's really what it's about, maybe politicians ought to be honest. But I'm not even going down that road. We're working on chainsaws. So anyway, if you're using fuel from the pump that has ethanol in it, you're going to have your fuel hoses harden up pretty damn quick. Now that doesn't mean they're garbage when they harden up, but it does make them more susceptible to cracking and damage if they get hit, you know, if it's exposed and a stick jams up in there or something like that. So that's the whole point there. We'll grab a new hose grommet here. We'll get that installed. The old one ought to just, yeah. That one wasn't in the worst of shape, but I'm right here. And it would just be silly not to. So you just kind of press it in. And this, you probably don't need a wire to feed. At least I don't think so. Now, the way this one's designed, it's going to poke its nose right through into the outlet here. Ah, dummy. You can do that. You can pull so hard that you pull the damn grommet through if you're not careful. Dummy. We'll see if we can reseat it with the hose in there, if we've got to take it all the way out. Should have followed my own advice and put a little oil on that hose before fishing it through. There we go. So I've already pulled more than I needed to. That looks close. So the hose fits right up through this slot. Like I say, some of these early ones had a steel pipe that was in here, and then you had a hose on either side of that. Homelite fairly early discontinued that and encouraged people to just go to this one-piece fuel hose. And I mean, if you're doing a restoration, there's no harm in leaving the steel pipe in there, but there's also nothing really to gain from it either. So, all right, That is enough to recess. We can see it's going to reach carburetor just fine. So let's nip this angle cut off. We'll have that done. Okay. Alright. Let's make sure that stays in its little happy groove there as we put the starter on. We don't want to pinch that. And I'm not convinced that it's doing what I want it to do. I'll pull this a little tighter. There. Now it is. This saw should have an absolute ton of compression. Shouldn't be hard to get her to prime and start once we go through the carb. That hose needed replaced, but it wasn't so bad that I would look at that and say, yeah, that's why it wouldn't start. I'm sure the carb needs some diaphragms and gaskets. I'm going to take these screws in so it sits a little flatter here. Alright, let's do our contortion of getting the carburetor out. This screw, I find it, on this side, I find it most effective to pull the throttle trigger and get the throttle linkage out of the way. And then, usually, you can just snake in here and unscrew it by hand. Not always, though. Some of these are stiff enough you've got to use the wrench the whole time. That's not the most fun. This side, you get the choke on the half setting. I find that works pretty well. And this one's trying to round the head off already. There she goes. Homelite made source screws that were so soft. I'm not sure why. At least on these carburetor screws, it was so easy to round them off. Okay. You're going to break loose, or you're going to be a pain in the butt. Okay. Hopefully that came loose from the reed block easily enough that it wouldn't tear that gasket. Usually they do. Fish this thing out. Come on. Okay. 1 HDC carburetor. Already done one of these today. Hopefully this one's not going to take a check valve like the last one. Okay. She's actually holding pressure pretty well. Really well. So that's a good sign. But I cannot get manually operating this diaphragm. Can't get her to go. So let's get that out of the way. The last time that happened, there was actually gunk dried up fuel that was plugging up the inlet barb. That other HDC actually had the 90 degree, and I had to pop that out and actually use a drill bit by hand to clean all the dried up fuel out of it. Hopefully this one's not the same way. Well, we'll just see what we see. Sounds crunchy. Yep. Crunchy. Nasty. And the screen's got some debris on it, so that filter has failed at some point. Nothing wrong with that screen, so I just blew it out, and of course, literally blew it out. Air will pop that out. So if you don't want to replace it, be careful and watch where the hell it's going. Alright. Not going to put the new diaphragms on yet, till we get this other side apart and see if there's any risk of needing to put carb cleaner down in there. We don't want to expose any of our new soft parts to that stuff. We'll eat them. Especially the needle. That's probably the most risk. The other stuff will survive a few times, but why do it? Just not have to worry about it. Let's see how much of a pain this is going to be to get loose. Maybe a bit. There we go. Oh yeah, she's crunchy. And that needle. Alright, watch this. Watch the head of the needle. Ain't even moving. Not at all. So, there was no way in the world this carburetor was going to pull fuel. That's a great example of what happens when one has sat for God knows how many years and didn't have a couple partially open kits here, so let's see what I got. Didn't have the fuel drained off all the way, or at all, who knows. Okay, get our circuit plate out of the way. We'll see what's lying under there waiting for us. That explains why she was holding pressure so well. Damn needle is stuck down. Alright. Come on, baby. Some of these can really be a pain to get loose. This one doesn't have the recess around the back here. Give you somewhere to get a screwdriver into. There she goes. And there comes the spring. We don't want to lose. I'm certain that... Okay. Could have been worse. Actually, that looks pretty good under there. Pretty clean. What we want. A little bit of the gasket stayed on the plate here, so I'm going to clean that crap off. It's not all rusty, so it didn't draw moisture into the carb while it was sitting. And that's a hell of a good thing. Now this needle. That tip is kind of stiff. I'm not a fan of that. Not a fan of that at all. Alright, now I'm going to try and use up some of these partial kits that I've got, so I'm going to have to go digging in there for a circuit plate gasket that is correct. As you'll notice that this one has the Z pattern on it. We've talked about that before. The single needle almost always require the Z gasket, but your real tell is your circuit plate. One hole versus two. Two holes, you're going to use the one that doesn't have the Z pattern. one hole, you've got to use it. Otherwise, one of your jets is not going to be able to get fuel. So, I don't have one in that kit. And I don't have one in that kit. What else is in here? Can I avoid opening a third kit to make a complete one? Yes, I can. Bingo. Right there. So, we're going to check the check valve. No pun intended. And if you want to see that in much more up-close detail, check out the previous video from today. I don't know what the hell I'm going to title it yet, but it's going to be something like Miranda's HDC full rebuild with check valve, or, you know, something like that. Something that if somebody does a search later on down the road, they can tell what they're going to get. Alright, now this one is good. You remember on that last one, we just had a black wrinkled puddle of goo under there. This is a red, so it's an updated, newer valve, and it's not all wrinkled, and it lays flat in there. So that's good. This one can be reassembled and run the way it is. So you want to get your screen back in there, and then a little snap ring. And by little, I do mean little. This thing's a pain in the neck. You basically got to hold one side and snap the other side in with your little baby screwdriver or something similar. But there it is. So, circuit plate gasket. We're going to use a new needle. We're going to, just on pure principle, because I've gotten into the habit of doing this, stretch this spring just a smidge. Just give it a few more pounds of pop-off pressure. Hang the needle. Oopsie, come on. Catch that spring? No. Damn it. Sometimes, there it goes. Sometimes you can fix it, sometimes you just gotta take it out and try again when the spring goes cockeyed like that. So now that our circuit plate is dealt with, I'm going to start working on the other side so we can pressurize it. Again, all of this is explained well in that earlier HDC video. Okay. Much better. Needle moves now. Kind of helps. So I haven't posted anything about the 82cc challenge for a little bit. Updates there. I am still fighting with the Pioneer. I thought it was going to be the easy one. Shows what I don't know. Out there on Arborist's site, there is a couple threads that have information where at least one guy was able to take a Husqvarna what the hell was it, a 345 coil or something. I mean, apparently that particular coil is used on a lot of different Husqvarna saws. He was able to adapt one to his P51, and he says it runs great. Well, I got the same coil and built a little plate, and I know that the lower coil pickup leg is definitely closer to the top of the engine than the original was, and I can get it to start, but it will not rev out properly. It dies. So I think it's running. I think it's running retarded. How many degrees worth, I haven't got the foggiest clue. I'm not going to take the time to try and measure that. But anyway, it's not running at this point. So that coil was not going to work on my saw. And I had originally, way back when this first started, thought that, oh yeah, that's the same as a Homelite 410 coil, and physically they are identical. But apparently the coils on the Pioneers were sourced from Phelon. Homelites are Prestolite, so they're Weco. So the flywheel magnets are exactly reversed. I even tried putting a 410 flywheel on, but it's too big in diameter, and the keyway isn't in the same spot. So that put an end to that one real quick. I got a couple leads on the P51 coil, and I'll track those down probably. With any luck, I want to resolve that issue this weekend. Get one on the way. But that's where that's at. I repaired the starter on the Mac Super Pro 81 this morning and got those parts in and gave it another test run. It hadn't been run in several weeks, and I think it took 4 pulls and it was roaring to life, so I can't gripe about that. I think that saw is going to be a strong damn competitor. Alright, way more leak than I care for. What are we doing here, folks? It's not that. It's back here. There we go. Slowed it way down. Tell you, those single screws on these HDCs are a real pain in the ass. Just don't compress the gasket quite enough to get a good hard seal. Yeah, and it drops down to around 3 or 4 relatively quickly, quicker than I care for, but then it slows way off. So the reality is your fuel tank shouldn't be pressurized much beyond that, even when it's hot anyway. That's just the way it should be. Now come on. Okay, needle didn't drop to 0 when I put my thumb on here, so we're probably good. We may hear this saw run here pretty quick. And it's going to be loud. It's still got the old stack muffler on it. So anyway, the SP81 is ready to go. I don't think I need to do anything else to it. Both oilers are working. Starts easy, revs right out. Next time I go up the firewood hill, I'll take it with and we'll do a video of it just cutting by itself and give everybody an idea of what it's capable of doing. But the compression is just ripping phenomenal on it. If it didn't have a decompression valve, you'd break the starter in about half a second. Alright. There's some junk here. And that one is done. Okay. And before too long, I suppose I ought to take the XL923, that's what's going to represent Homelite, take it down out of the attic and give it a test fire. It's probably been, I'll be dead, it probably has been 3 years since I restored, repainted it, and then drained it out and put it away. So I know it'll run, but I'm certainly not going to wait until the day of the event to do that little test run. Alright, let's put this thing back in here and see if we can get a test fire. And then I can do some of this other little ticky-foo stuff later. Like the cap valves. I don't think I've got a sprocket in stock. I'll have to order that. Come on, you miserable bastard. There we go. Getting these to start through their grommets without forcing them is kind of a pain sometimes. But it's better to do it that way than to try and force it and pop the damn grommet out. Because they're not much fun to put back in either. And at least the grommets hold the curb at the right height. You still have to go side to side to get these screws started, but makes it pretty easy, all things considered. Wanna fight with me? TJ and I have not set a date for the spring get-together where we'll do the 82cc challenge, but that's kind of weather dependent. We started off with another pretty late start to winter. I mean, it got cold quick enough, but we just didn't get the precipitation. And I'll tell you, this last month we've come on strong around here. It's not hard rain down here like, say, at the coast or something like that, or the Portland or Seattle area, but we've had consistent rain quite a bit. I think we're over 3 inches for the month, which for the Medford area is pretty good. The mountain snowpack a month ago was barely over 50% of normal when they measured the snow water content, and in the span of the last 2 weeks we've gone up to basically 100% of normal. So if somebody needed to travel over the Cascades during that time, they were screwed. That was nasty travel weather. We picked up the snow. So anyway, depending on how late winter decides to hang on this year, we're going to want it to dry out at TJ's place just a little bit. I mean, yeah, we could get in and out, but what's the point of tearing up his dad's field down there? I don't feel like raking mud to take tire tracks out. Alright, come on. We are almost ready for a test fire here. There we go. Till I know this is right, I'm not going to get too much assembled. But I do want a choke rod. There we go. Okay, I'll splash a fuel, see if she'll draw. That'll be enough. And just so that I don't totally piss off my neighbors, let me catch this door. I don't know how much difference that actually makes, but hey, I tried. Okay, cross your fingers, folks. See if she'll bark. Stupid things. Hey, it helps if I turn the switch on. I know just how loud that was, because even through the earmuffs it was loud. So hopefully I didn't blow the microphone out too much on the camera. Alright, Dave, we're in good shape here. I'll do the duckbill valves, see what we can do about a sprocket. I might pull that spark plug and just take a look-see at it. And it's got a DJ8J in there. That's a couple ranges too hot, so I'll probably change that out to a DJ6J like Homelite originally recommended. And yeah, won't be long. I'll get it aired out. We'll get it back to you.